Today we're chatting with Isles. Isles, well, another international event for Lyon, and you're back here. So, what is the difference that you guys are looking for in this versus First Stand?
I mean, I think First Stand was just a bit more of a learning experience for us. I think a few of our players gave some insight, I think, into like where our confidence was at, where our level was at, and I think there were definitely great moments from First Stand, but there was still a big lack of coordination. There was some really big fumbles, particularly in the JDG series, and I think a lot of that stuff has definitely been improved on since then, and we're definitely in a more competitive spot, I just suppose, generally speaking. But the competition here is even steeper than it was at First Stand. There are more teams, and obviously everyone has been getting better throughout the year. It's crazy to think that HLE went from 10th place now to first place.
Yeah.
So if that's not improvement, then what is,
Well, what does it mean to be competing against basically the East Asian teams? I mean, you mentioned that HLE was in 10th in the spring in the first split. Then they moved up to first. They kind of had their home arena. But for you, like, how does it feel to compete against those teams and just kind of see how you measure up? Especially some good supports are down here too.
I mean, I definitely think there's a big learning experience for me. I think First Stand was kind of diving into the deep, and I was outspoken about how I thought On was fantastic, namely from BLG at the time. But yeah, I think ever since that experience, I've kind of got, I kind of understand the level that everyone is at. Obviously, every support that has managed to get here is great. They can play so many different champions. They are super aggressive. They don't tend to miss timers. They're good at acting sometimes too.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just pretending like they've got something going on when they don't. And that type of aggression, that type of play style is really tough to play against. But I mean, the same is going for our team. We play an aggressive style, and we learn from these teams, and we've definitely gotten better at this type of thing too. So.
For you, champion pools are kind of the big thing in Fearless, especially how the meta changes with every patch. And now we're in a new patch. So how do you adapt to when a certain champion is either buffed or nerfed, and how do you feel your champion pool is going to hold up against some of the East Asian teams who tend to experiment a lot more sometimes and on stage than some LCS teams do?
I mean, the meta just seems to have adapted a lot since the regular season throughout the year. There was this. Just speaking at least from Botlane's perspective, there was gigantic priority on Ashe and Seraphine throughout this year, but I think now that it's come to MSI, people have started to realize that these champions have a big weakness to mages, and there's obviously people have seen the Ziggs and the Mel before, but it can go even deeper than that, and these really roam heavy supports, whether it be Camille, Pike, or just Bard or Nautilus, whatever it might be. It seems like teams are leaning more heavily into this style, and I think it's not something that I mind playing myself. It's just different. Playing engenders, playing engaged supports, playing these roaming supports. It's all, they're different skill sets, but it's all part of the job description. I think when it comes to being a great support, and being able to adapt to it is super important.
For your confidence level of coming into this team, which has a bunch of experience, you've had your own extensive experiences yourself, but being able to play with such a group that is very well versed in internationals, whether it's internationals or even just experience in general, like how much have you learned just by being around these guys, especially Berserker on the bottom lane, and how much he kind of helped you kind of evolve your game to where it is now?
So much so. I think it's an unbelievable amount. I think without the teammates around me, I would look completely different to how I do now. I think there's still so far to go, and every single time, even if it feels like you've kind of mastered a certain element of the game, once you play against these great teams, it feels like you just have to level up that much more. Even in areas that you felt you were comfortable in before, they can show you something new, and I think that's kind of what happens, especially when you go to internationals after you've been playing domestically for a while. There's oftentimes, I said this in a different interview too, but there's like a bit of like a landing phase shock, or sometimes maybe like a skirmishing shock, that you just see how decisive people are, how aggressive they are, how good of an idea they have about how they want to fight before they go into it. And until you can like, get yourself up to that level, and sometimes that's a bit of a scramble when there's limited time for internationals, when you don't play against these teams all the time. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at right now, and we'll have to go from there.
For Berserker, like how much did his presence kind of allow you to grow into your role a little bit, at his experience level? Because it feels like, when it comes to supports, you kind of have to work well with your ADC. So, how much has Berserker given you on what he needs from you, and, what the team also needs from you when you guys are communicating?
I mean, Berserker, I think, is a really well-rounded player. He understands the game from the support role, I think, so much better than he did in previous years. I think just holistically his time in Korea, even though, I mean, he didn't find that much success, I think he must have learned a lot about how the game is supposed to be played outside of just the ADC perspective. I think a lot of people view him in this light of being a hyper carry player, someone who excelled on like Zeri and like 2022, 2023 and whatever. But I think he's so much more than that, and his champion pool is also great, and he's a very critical player. I think he's extremely well-rounded, and a lot of my success is because of him.
Oh, and just, overall, just having like the experience that you guys are going through, for you personally, like, where have you seen your most growth in terms of, where do you think you've seen your most growth?
Definitely a tough question. Most growth. I mean, League is just such a complex game. There's so much to it, But I think it's just trying to find your role. And I think speaking of what we were talking about earlier about there being different champions to play in the meta and adapting to all that, I think just the ability to find your role and think about what your champion has to do, and then translate that to what is important in each game, whether that be early crab fights, grub timings, vision timings, whatever it might be. It's just finding your role based on the context of the game. I think that's one thing that our team in general, I think, is really good at, and not necessarily in the game, but also out of the game. Coming to that conclusion quickly and trying to implement that is something that has helped me a lot, and our team has been working on.
Last question, we see, the clip, I think it's now in infamy, even though I know exactly what, I know the context of it and how your team operates and how you guys communicate with each other. But when people only see a handful, like a small clip of your comm style, which inspired Insane kind of going back and forth, and, like those who haven't really competed at a high level always seem to think they just don't like each other. In reality, it feels like that's kind of the relationship you have, is that you're kind of like brothers when, when you're going to do something. Is that kind of how it's kind of missing sometimes when you only get clipped for those small like bits where it seems like you guys are yelling or talking over each other? Is that kind of like misconstrued sometimes, especially how you guys are in real life?
I think it is, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that. I mean, we don't really leave much unsaid on our team. I think when people have tension or emotions or things they want to say, advice they want to give, criticism they want to give, it just won't be left unsaid. I think we have people that are blunt for whatever reason, and I think if you're thick enough skinned to take that type of thing, then it's the most effective way to get better. I think if you just have people that are scared to step on each other's toes, which is something that I think happened to me when I was early in my career. I think people were just shy to talk to me because they didn't want to hurt my feelings, that type of thing. It really doesn't progress your team forward, and I think that's just not a problem we have at all.
Well, thank you, Isles, for your time. I really love chatting with you. You always have a very reflective side of the game, and good luck this week. I look forward to chatting with you more.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Hope that was different from the normal interviews you do.
No worries.
All right. Oh, the mic real fast.
Oh, yeah.